Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you. It's almost a year and 3 months since we concluded. Means in some ways ongoing. Major part of that active operations got concluded, but this remains a subject of interest for the strategic community, not only in India but abroad also. Dr. Arvind was right in saying that it changed India, but I think it changed the other side more. That we'll discuss in the aftermath. But the measures undertaken to overcome these kind of deficiencies which people noticed in this particular operation, combined with how this warfare is changing and with global uncertainty all together, throws up new kind of challenges for all of us. So I'll not only speak about the operation per se, Operation Sindoor, but also try and see in its aftermath as to what's happening and what kind of challenges India may face in future. Let me start by saying that politics and war are inseparable. Means Clausewitz said that war is a continuation of politics by other means. A nation's political interests are paramount; they're supreme, and armed forces are one of the instruments actually to protect it, just one of the instruments. There are many instruments for the government. And in a political democracy, whenever the government decides to use force for attainment of its political objectives, then I think it's the role of the armed forces, or the defense forces or the military, I think is twofold. Firstly, is to provide options to the government for application of that particular force so that it can achieve its objectives. And second is to provide some kind of an confidence to the government. So government can have as many options as it desires, provided it has spent that much amount of money during peacetime to develop its capabilities. The options also depend on the military leadership, the kind of training they have imparted, the kind of war games they have conducted, the kind of contingencies they have played out, the kind of rehearsals which they have carried out. This will increase the number of options that are available to us. Each option will have certain kind of a risk involved into it, and also it will satisfy the need, the political need for which force was to be used. So it's an interplay between risk and this attainment of political objectives. You try and achieve a target which is very deep inside. Obviously the risk for attainment of that will be more. It is likely to get intercepted. So all these things, there's interplay, there's always a risk. Second thing I said about was confidence. That's the role of the military, to provide that confidence to the government so that it can take good decisions. No military, I would say, is 100% prepared 100% of the time. There will always be deficiencies in all armed forces. Your assessment of the enemy will never be complete. It's an ongoing kind of a process. But as we had seen in the past, that sometimes in front of the political leadership, people bring out the kind of deficiencies which they have. This particular operation stands out in some particular manner, in which all the three services and myself, right from day one, did not bring any of these kind of deficiencies which we could have said, okay, for this we would be able to not achieve A, B, C. And we continue to tell the government that whatever decision they take, we should be able to carry out operation, not for 1, 2, but a number of days. Options, when we say for force application, you all know that after the Uri terror attack, there were surgical strikes. Then the time we went via the land route. Thereafter, after Pulwama, we used the air route with large force engagements, almost about 40 plus aircrafts, main and a similar kind of a decoy mission operating somewhere else. Sindoor, we decided to use a third option, that is exploit the lower airspace. That means it would have kept the threshold of conflict low, it would have assured success, and then there would have been an element of surprise. In fact, whenever you are exercising any option, if you repeat that strategy time and again, the chances of success will be dim. So every time you'll have to think of a new strategy. Uri was different. He never expected it. Balakot was entirely different. It was not in J&K, it was in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And Sindoor was entirely different from what we had done earlier. So you have to have a new strategy always. You can't repeat an old strategy, otherwise the chances of success of that strategy you'll not have. Next is about capability development. I think we all learn lessons from whatever we do. So Balakot strikes probably had their own lessons for Pakistan as well as for us. We learned that long range precision strikes are a must. Standoff capability is a must. Post strike damage assessment is a must. You have to get back the proof of what you have done. So after that we started investing in creating these kind of capabilities. So you had Scalp, Rampage, Crystal Maze, Hammer. We had Palm 400, Excalibur ammunition. So all these kind of capabilities not only we acquired, but we started to operationalize it. Pakistan probably they learned a different kind of a lesson from Balakot. They were worried about air defenses, so probably they invested more in HQ-9, PL-15 and such kind of aircraft. In between, I must also say that this was the period when government had given us emergency procurement. So I was talking about, the government should be able to spend some money. So all democracies are always short of money. But then the government did give us this emergency procurement 1 to 4, largely arising out of our troubles in the northern border. And we created these capabilities and we could have shifted them either way. So Ukraine war also gave us a number of options for how force is used. That conflict was very enriched with kind of a lessons. Different kind of capabilities were used with effect. So we procured a number of drones, loiter ammunition and counter-UAS systems. Now I'll talk about the decisions which were taken at various levels and how they were taken, what kind of decisions were taken. You are aware, let's talk about the political decisions. You are aware about the political decision that we, the perpetrators of this particular strike, will not be spared and will not tolerate cross-border terrorism. This was conveyed by none other than the Honorable Prime Minister in his speech in Patna on 24th. In fact, on 23rd, the other instruments of power, how do you want to use diplomacy, your economic power or trade, those decisions were also taken on the 23rd. But the decision how force is to be applied, that was taken on the 29th when the Chiefs of Staff Committee, the Raksha Mantri and the NSA met the Honorable Prime Minister. But in this period between 23rd and 29th, there was a number of activities which are happening between us. The Chiefs of Staff Committee must have met on almost about 4 or 5 times. Equal amount of times he would have met along with the National Security Advisor. The Raksha Mantri held his meetings along with NSA on 2 or 3 occasions. So it was a kind of an interplay when we went to the government with our options. We had a number of options which we had discussed with the NSA. So on 29th when we went there, I think the big decision over there was that we should teach Pakistan a big lesson because India will not tolerate cross-border terrorism and this must end. So in words like, it's beautiful beyond soch ke bahar ho. Then of course, second thing was whatever we are supposed to do or whatever we are planning to do, we gave out these options which I told you that we will use the lower airspace. The Prime Minister was only, he told us only one thing, that he's not under any kind of political pressure to do it immediately. He said, do it at your own time, but ensure that there is no reason for failure, either human or because of technical reasons. And we should have evidence of whatever we do. And the fourth thing which he told us was complete freedom of action. So for the military, actually, there could have been nothing better than this. what they want always is clear political direction, and that was available to us. It was in this particular meeting only. We also included in the target list, we also included Bhavalpur. That was on insistence of Raksha Mantri, because the Prime Minister is saying that we need to do something big. The target was at a distance, but yet we included it. And once we included Bhavalpur in the target list, use of air became inherent into it. Loiter ammunitions and drones would not have been able to reach, or that success wouldn't have been assured. As far as decisions at the operational level are concerned, these were held along with NSA, with the Chiefs of Staff Committee, myself including there. Identification of targets, that was a major challenge for us. Some had been vacated after Prime Minister had said that on 24th that we'll go after this terror targets. Some had been reoccupied, some had been relocated. So there was a constant battle going on between us intelligence agencies, our military intelligence, as to which are the camps which we should strike, which should have that effect. So that was then of course in this there were generation of multiple options. I have told about how options were generated for application of force, but over here there are options as to what should be targeted, at what level should it be targeted. The rules of engagement, they were decided in this. The rules of engagement were quite clear actually, that anything which is impeding your carrying out your mission successfully, that should be targeted, and anything in self-defense is part of engagement, the rules of engagement. Over here I would like to talk about two words, accuracy and precision. You must have seen the precision of our strikes that was available to us on the television screens. But the accuracy of that information was because of the work of the intelligence agencies. So there were two things, and I must acknowledge that the accuracy of the intelligence which was produced by intelligence agencies under the insistence of NSA was good, and so was the precision. The third level where decisions were taken were at the level of the Chiefs of Staff Committee. The Chiefs of Staff Committee, the kind of decisions were taken were at service alert levels, at what stage of this conflict, at what alert levels would all the three services should be, timing of the attack, the day of the attack, that are all based on an analysis of their flying activities from 23rd onwards till about 6th, as to what time do they fly, what time do they rest, what time do they come. And of course, that we wanted to minimize the civilian casualties, that's why we chose that midnight hour. Initially there was a doubt if we would be able to strike at midnight and yet obtain evidence of those strikes in pitch darkness. But then we were confident of the capability which we had created, and we said yes, we will be able to do that at midnight, reduce the chances of civilian casualties, collect that kind of an evidence, and of course it helped us in maintaining surprise. Next is mobilization. The armed forces are not deployed on the border all the time, so some kind of a selective mobilization had to be done as a precautionary kind of a measure. Sometimes what happens is this leads to a competitive kind of mobilization from both the sides, and this can then lead on to further escalation of a conflict. And this I had witnessed myself during Balakot. Every commander who's at the border, he would like 100% preparedness, and he would like to mobilize with 100% troops over there. So it is a great challenge to keep telling commanders, no, you can't do this. So that was a big challenge for us, that you don't allow people to mobilize so that you can maintain surprise. Reorientation of air defense, that was another major challenge. You all know that we were trying to integrate the three air defense structures of the three services together, but they were all being done in priority for the northern borders, and then we had to suddenly reorient it for the western borders. We didn't have a functional counter US grid, counter unmanned aerial system grid, which we were hastily able to put up, more based on procedural aspects rather than physical integration of networks. We were able to prepare good escalation matrix with 5 stages of escalation, about which I will talk about in the aftermath. As far as service headquarters are concerned, parallelly they were working. That involved targeting data, that involved survey of that by military survey, large amount of calculations, Air Force uses mensuration, etc., to get exact DEM data, exact lat-long data, because we are hitting targets and we wanted to have accuracies in meters actually. So that involved a lot of staff work. It also involved rehearsals and testing of this, whatever we are going to use, because we had acquired them, but we had never used them earlier. So that was required. Then, of course, earmarking of units for those kind of strikes, relocation of these assets, especially air defense assets, from the northern borders to the west. Most of our M777 howitzers, which use Excalibur ammunition, were deployed on the western borders. They had to be redeployed. Similarly, in case of MR-SAMs, BrahMos, all this had to be redeployed. The demand for satellite imagery and intelligence kept multiplying the moment this thing happened. And we knew that we are going in for operations, and the Defense Space Agency was at its wit's end actually, how to meet this increasing demands. ISRO came in with a big help. A couple of satellites of there were placed under command, couple of ground stations were placed, and from about 24 hours revisit cycle on a particular area, we are able to get it down to about 8 hours. Then, of course, we used normal contracts for commercial imagery with other companies which are doing this business globally. Similarly, for defense cyber agencies, they had to coordinate a lot of work with the service cyber agencies. Cyber is one field in which people, try to maintain secrecy, all services also. So one had to really force your way onto the service cyber agencies, get their act together, understand what kind of capabilities we have created, because no one is wanting to tell that what kind of capabilities that have been created, and then to integrate it into a operational plan which we are going to execute. So that was one challenge. Then, of course, DGDIA, that's the intelligence, so coordinating all kind of intelligence together as to how things will happen. So this was major work which was going on parallelly with. So sometimes people ask, why did you take so long actually, from 23rd to 6th, because all these processes had to been gone through. Some defense related decisions were also important, that which the Ministry of Defense or Raksha Mantri along with us took. First is whether to invoke the Union War Book or not to invoke the Union War Book. We had not declared a kind of war. So while Union War Book was not being but its provisions were being invoked, the Coast Guard was placed under command of the Navy. Similarly, we started coordinating with the BSF, with MHA getting involved. Then, of course, is Raksha Mantri sanctioned Emergency Procurement 5 and Emergency Procurement 6 for capital and revenue. So this whole process started. DRDO pitched in its bid by offering us equipment which are still under development or trial on experimental kind of a basis, which we could do. So all these activities were happening simultaneously between 23rd to about 6th. Rehearsals, planning, escalation matrix being developed, constant meetings and refinement of plans. And this is happening all across, right from the political level, the NSA level, RM, Chief of Staff Committee, the service headquarter level, and then commands and below, and strike units. Now let me talk about a few enablers which actually helped us conclude these operations very successfully. One is exercise Tropex. The Navy does an annual exercise Tropex, and most of its ships were out before this particular operation. So they had in fact just finished this exercise about a week back or so, and the ships were already actually coming back into harbor. They had to reload ammunition and go back on operational deployment. So we were almost able to deploy 40 surface combatants, including a carrier battle group, as compared to very minuscule amount of surface combatants, 4 or 5 of the Pakistan Navy. We are in the midst of conducting a communication exercise between what kind of a communication architecture should we have in case we have theatre commands. So that communication exercise was on. That was exercise known as Haldi Ghati, and it was one of the debriefs of that exercise which was holding on 22nd when the news started breaking in of this Pahalgam attacks. So that's the point actually we said this will continue with this communication exercise. So our communication architecture was well rehearsed. So it was already existing. and we are able to do that. Next thing which helped us was Army had deployed a secure mobile phone for their operations, and we had almost about 7,000-8,000 of those sets. They were distributed to the Air Force and the Navy, and also to the Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, Defense Secretary, and important appointment holders. So we did not depend on social media like WhatsApp or Telegram to exchange messages. So in fact, after 23rd, gradually everyone did not leave any kind of a digital imprint on this social media or the digital media. No imprint was left. And this would have been a matter of surprise for a number of foreign agencies who normally track such kind of important telephone numbers. So we all know this. Then one more thing which helped me was creation of a research cell, which was in fact term which we wanted to use for implementation cell. So in case we create theater commands, how are we going to do it? So I had a number of officers, 6-7 of them, a good team, one of the best set of officers there. So they were directly under me, helping me out. Otherwise, CDS is just one man and few staff officers. So I had a team of 6-7 officers. And of course, this initiative of jointness and integration, which came about along with this appointment of CDS. That's one of his job actually, to promote jointness, create integrated structures. So a number of such initiatives, like all these things which I told you about mobilization from the northern borders to the west, that involved a movement of a large number of aircrafts, people moving to ranges for rehearsals, etc., for firing of this equipment. That also involved a large number of movement of trains, equipment. All this was done at the level of maybe 1-star or 2-star officers. No one asked me anything, or no one troubled the higher leadership on this account, which wasn't the case in past conflicts where people had to intervene at the level of chiefs or vice chiefs to give a decision, no, do this. So that didn't happen. We had kind of not integrated our inventories, but there was a visibility of inventory of ours, all 3 services. So services knew that if there is something which is unserviceable because of A, B, C spares, if it's available with the other service, they are quickly demanded, given, released, and this equipment was made serviceable. And that's because a large number of equipment among the 3 services today is of a common use. So we have MR-SAMs, Akash systems, helicopters, BrahMos missiles. They are all the same. So they have a common inventory of spares, etc. So that was used. Then of course is air defense networks, IACCS, then your Akash Tir and Trigun. These are the 3 air defense networks or the 3 services. They all create a separate picture. There is no, that used to happen in the past, but we were able to integrate this. So we have a comprehensive air picture of the complete airspace over India and maybe some kilometers across the border available. And this was all integrated in some manner with our fire control systems. And of course, jointness and integration was also carried on by not only by the Chiefs of Staff Committee, but the number of subcommittees which form part of the Chiefs of Staff Committee. As far as this operation is conduct of this operation is there, it was, we all know, we can say that it was done in 3 phases. Phase 1 was the surgical strikes which happened on the night of 6th and 7th morning. There were 9 targets which are stuck. Air Force struck Boritke and Bawalpur, and the Army struck 7 targets. Then was this period of 8th and 9th, in which Pakistan tried to say that they launched Operation Makal Haq, that's Battle of Truth. And this particular 2 days, a lot of loiter ammunitions, some kind of drones, etc., were used by both sides. If I were to say this particular time was taken by both sides for deceiving each other, for sizing up each other, for creating gaps, assessing your vulnerabilities and plugging it, and creating new vulnerabilities. So for example, we knew that on 8th and 9th, you must have seen that we used Harop and Harpic loiter ammunition to target. They're anti-radiation loiter ammunition. They loiter at a particular area, and if some radiating medium comes up or radars or something, they go and hit that. So that's what we were using. But before that, we were using a meat ammunition, which is actually an air defense target decoy. So that goes, it masquerades as an aircraft, and that forces people to open up their radars, and that's followed by this particular HAROP and HARPIC. And then it creates vulnerabilities because you do not know when aircrafts are coming whether to open up your radars or don't have to open. So that kind of tactics created some kind of a gaps, physical gaps because of destruction of some radars, and procedural because the enemy was confused as to whether it should open up radars. So all this, as said, was a period in which we are trying to create vulnerabilities, plug our vulnerabilities, trying to deceive each other, sizing up each other, and creating gaps. On the line of control, of course, there were focused fire assaults which happened. And on the 10th, that the phase 3, I would say, that's Bunyan al-Marsus, the operation which Pakistani said is a wall of lead. That started as, they declared that almost to a couple of countries that they're going to teach India a lesson in next 48 hours and going to start at about 1 o'clock PST, and that's about 1:30 PST. But unfortunately or fortunately, they folded up within about 8.5 hours. So in this phase 3 of the operation, we carried out 4 waves of air attacks, first starting at 2:30, 4:30, 10:30, and last one going at almost at about 1:45, 12:30. So if I have to sum up, this Operation Sindoor was a different kind of a war from all the wars which we had fought earlier till now. So this was a mix of non-contact, largely non-contact and contact warfare. It was truly multi-domain because operations were handling not only the air, maritime and land domain, but also in cyber and electromagnetic spectrum as well as space. It was a mix of kinetic and non-kinetic operations. It was networked. I spoke about our air defense network. That gave us a fused kind of a picture. They were non-linear. Normally, most of the warfare, it's been linear in sense we take on objectives very sequentially. So over here, there was no sequential attacking of objectives. We stuck objectives which are far too in depth. And of course, there was a bit element of intelligence involved into it, artificial intelligence also. Let me now talk about why did Pakistan on 10th at about 9:30 they picked up the phone and they said that they wanted to talk. And why did this happen? Because that very night, a night before that, they were very confident that they'll continue for about 48 hours. And they folded up almost in 8 hours and 30 minutes. I think to be fair to the Pakistanis, I would say that they carried out certain strikes, but they did not know the effectiveness of those strikes. So they assumed that they have done some strikes. So the first thing which was happened to them was they assumed that they have stuck, and they were confident that something they would have caused some kind of damage. By about 9:30, they were sure. By this time, Indian Air Force had struck Noor Khan and Sargodha. If you remember Sargodha, we had the strikes right at the cross junction of those two runways. So that would have made 3 or 4 squadrons which are deployed at Sargodha unavailable to them. Similarly, squadrons which are deployed at Noor Khan would have been unavailable to them. So they would have suddenly found their air capabilities come down drastically because of these strikes. And had these operations continued, this would have got down their effectiveness of the air even further. So on one hand, they were confident that they have stuck, but they had no idea what they had stuck. So, and on the second hand, they were seeing that they were losing this capability to strike. LC was very responsive, and there were the deterrents which the Indian Navy had produced. So combined, I think, with all this, they picked up the phone and thought it's better to actually talk rather than continuing with this particular warfare. If I had to list out a couple of reasons for India's victory, I would say that we had better situational awareness, better battlefield transparency because we are better networked. And Army, Navy and Air Force, this situation was available to us in one manner for all of us. So hence we were able to take decisions better. So we not only knew the results of our strikes, almost real time, but also knew the results of his strikes, that he has failed, which he did not know. So compared to us, he was kind of blind. So hence it was easy for us to take decisions.